Cari studenti, buonasera. Questo video va a sostituire la lezione che avremmo dovuto avere lunedì 9 marzo. Quindi in questa occasione andrò più lentamente, non è più il riassunto contenuto nel primo video che ho postato. Quindi se avete commenti, domande, potete postarle sia sotto il video che inviandomi un'email alla mia mail istituzionale che ben conoscete. So I will start with a review about where we are, very brief. Remember that we were talking about speech acts during our first week. We looked at directives, commissives, and we left right here. We were talking about felicity conditions, conditions that have to be satisfied for communication to work. I want you to watch this video, okay? This is a quick review on several types of speech acts. It lasts 2.20 minutes, more or less. So we'll proceed like this. Whenever I ask you to watch a video, I will ask you to pause this video about the lesson, watch the video, and then get back to me. So please pause the video now and have a look at this this review. So I hope that helped you remember the different types of speech acts with some pretty good examples. Now, as for today, we're going to talk about indirect speech acts, okay? A3.5 in your pragmatics book. Remember, we were talking about that conversation with students that were at a brunch and they were deciding whether or not to get some extra buns. There was one person that said, I think I might get another one. Think about your everyday life. Not always do we make direct requests. Often we also use indirect requests to communicate something that is different from what we actually want to say or what we actually mean. So in this case, I think I might get another one is actually, or perhaps, an indirect request for another bun. Now, we're going to look at several aspects about indirect speech. First aspect is its social dimension. If we think about it, we use indirect speech acts as a form of politeness in our everyday life. Okay, would you mind closing the door instead of just close the door? But I want to give you this example that your book has. And it's the difference between writing, thank you for not smoking. That can be typically found, I don't know, in a British pub, versus no smoking. The first case is an indirect act, okay? We're still commanding, we're still forbidding somebody from doing something, but in an indirect way. This is pretty different from saying no smoking, okay? Direct, straight to the point. What's happening? What's going on there from a social dimension point of view? You have to consider this. The higher the authority, more indirect speech can be used. What does this mean? If I have authority, I don't need to command people to do something. I don't need to demand. I can use indirect speech because I know that I have power. I know that I have the authority to forbid people from doing something or forcing people to do something. I want to show you this example from your book. Okay, it's a conversation, a little dialogue between an employer and an employee. She got to her feet, perched on top of her boxy 4-inch heels. She just about cleared my armpit. Very short person. I've been hoping to see you, Mr. Marlowe. Hoping to interest you in taking a case for me. If you have time, that is. She made it sound as though her problem, whatever it was just a bit on the dull side, and that if I didn't have time for it, the two of us could just forget it and move on to something more interesting. Okay? Remember these words. I've been hoping to see you, Mr. Marlowe, hoping to interest you in taking a case for me. If you have time, that is. I'm an awful reader, but look at that content. So what is this person actually doing? She knows that she has the authority, that she has power to make somebody do something for her. But at the same time, she has no urge, she has no reason to say, you have to do this for me. She's hedging, playing around with words. We'll see what the concept of negative face is later on. But she is giving full space to her employee, making him perhaps feel at ease, as it were nothing important. And so she makes her indirect request. So that was for the social dimension. Now, let's look at the cultural dimension of speech acts. You always have to remember that words do not function in a void. You always have to take into consideration culture. Let me give you this example. Consider the expression, how fat you are. In India, perhaps, this is a compliment. It's something positive because it means that you are healthy. Versus, consider what would happen in the Western world, or in the UK more specifically. Saying how fat you are to somebody is definitely not an indication of good health. Actually, it is a form of derogation, a derogative form, a form of dispraisal. Your book also gives you another example about a conversation, phone call between a British person and a Cuban. Okay, you know that telephone calls have some standards, have some rules that have to be respected. And here, definitely, we can see that there are some differences in how to reply to a phone call, if we consider the British culture and the Cuban culture. So A says, is Mr. Parrott there? Yes, he is. Can I speak to him, please? Yes, wait a minute. So in this case, there's this sort of misinterpretation or misunderstanding between these two people that belong to two cultures, because there are simply different ways of answering the phone. Okay, so there's a cultural aspect that has to be taken into consideration in these cases. we'll skip this part for a second. And now I want to go down to A4.1, conversation. Conversational analysis. Your book uses this dialogue several times, so I'm just going to read it now and then we'll go back to it later on. So it's a dialogue between two students probably who are at university and they haven't seen each other for a while, so they sort of catch up with things. Wow, we've parted ways. That's right, yes. We'll have to go out sometime. Yeah. Before we forget each other's faces. Hehe, it's true. Hehe. So that's one of the dialogues that we're going to analyze. Then there's the second part. Again, same students, but this time they are talking about their subjects that they're going to study during the semester and the exams that they're going to take. You do language planning, don't you? Yeah. I've stopped doing that. I did stop doing that last week. SLA? I'm not doing that. Ah, we haven't got many things in common then. Okay, so these two excerpts are going to be used later on. Now, there were several scholars that have studied conversational analysis. More specifically, exchange structures. Okay, how people interact. What are the patterns that people use to interact? In this case, we're going to look at Sinclair's study from 1975, and he studied the overall patterns that are used when people are talking. I want to read this example from your book, and it's an exchange, a dialogue between a teacher and his or her student, one of her students. The mountain ranges brown. How will you know the mountain ranges? They're brown. How can you spot the mountain ranges? What's the clue from the key? The mountain ranges are brown. Only brown? Any other colors? Purple. Why do you think some are purple? Because some are smaller than the others. And the purple ones are what? Inaudible. We cannot hear what the student says. Are they going to be the taller mountains or the shorter mountains? Shorter. They're actually, inaudible again, the purple ones are the taller ones. These are very tall ones called the Alps, and they're purple. You've got to put them on this map. Now, are you sure you know what to do here? I'll leave you to get on with it. Okay, so what is the pattern here? Typical classroom communication. Teacher asks, the student replies. It's based on moves. Okay, so these are the patterns according to this scholar. First step, first move is initiation, and he indicates it with an I. Initiation means teacher, okay? Step number 2. R stands for response, and that's the student. F is a follow-up, so a comment from the teacher. IRF. Teacher asks a question, student replies, the teacher follows up with a comment. Now, within I initiation, R response, and F follow-up, there can be several acts. Okay? The first one, the teacher, can inform. So they basically give information. Looking at the example in our book, you can say the purple ones are the taller ones. So the teacher is giving some sort of information. Point number 2, to direct. This means to give orders. You've got to put them on this map. Three, to elicit. You basically request a response. This is what happens when the teacher asks the student, any other colors? Another move is a cue. To cue. This means that the teacher encourages the hearer to contribute. When the teacher says, hands up, don't call out, come on, are you sleeping? That sort of things. Then, to nominate. This means that the initiator calls out, names the responder using their name. Christine, Johnny, okay, with turn taking, this happens. Then another aspect is to check, verify progress. This is when a teacher says, are you finished? Are you done? Are you ready? Can I move forward? Things like that. And then, to prompt. This means that the initiator reinforces directives and elicitation by saying things like, go on, hurry up. Now, what happens with response? In the classroom context, what students do? Well, they can react using nonverbal language, a non-linguistic reply to a directive. They can nod their head, for example, or raise their hand. Or the student can reply to what the teacher is asking for, to an elicitation. An example from the dialogue that we looked at is the word purple. So he's giving an answer to his teacher. And finally, back to the initiator with follow-up. The teacher actually, sorry. So the teacher can either accept by simply showing that he or she has heard the correct information, saying things like yes, or they can also go through an evaluation, an assessment. The teacher can evaluate the hearer's answer with things like good, very good, or interesting, or incorrect. That happens too. So the combination of IRF, initiation, response, and follow-up, are an exchange. And they can be followed by a transaction with a lesson as the higher rank. What does this mean? That all these little acts build up a move, and this whole structure creates the eventual lesson. Just like that, it looks like a perfect world. But there are some limitations. The problem with this type of structure, this type of explanation, is that it's not real life. It doesn't accommodate to real life circumstances. Okay. We might not all be teachers, but we've definitely all been students. And we know how unruly a class can get. It's not always question, answer, initiation, response, follow-up. Definitely almost never. There are overlappings, there are kids pulling their hair or fighting with each other and nose picking, whatever can happen. But this means that there is not a perfect, linear and ruly class. And this is not taken into consideration by the IRF. I want to give you another example from your book that shows you how, again, it's not always IRF. And it's a doctor and a patient conversation, dialogue, where there's a patient that gets to the doctor's office, and he had some problems. So the doctor says, "So, how long have you been having these symptoms?" "This morning." "What did you eat yesterday?" And the patient goes, "What did I eat?" I really don't remember. His temperature is 38.5, pulse 110. "Well, have a think, because you may be suffering from food poisoning." Food poisoning? So as you can see here, it's not always initiation, response, follow-up. It's actually the patient replying to the doctor's question with another question. When the doctor says, "What did you eat yesterday?" he replies, "What did I eat?" Okay? And again, when the doctor comments, "Well, have a think, because you may be suffering from food poisoning," again, the patient says, "Food poisoning?" So he's not answering how the IRF pattern should work. He's answering questions with other questions. So as you can see, we cannot talk about absolute structures. They don't apply to real life. In this case, the question that the patient is asking, "What did I eat?" he's actually checking whether he understood what the doctor wanted from him or not. Again, no language can exist in a void without considering its context and considering it in theory. Now, before we move on to A4.4, I want you to watch a video, and I'm going to add the link right here. Now, before getting any further into conversational analysis, I want you to watch this TED Talk. You're certainly all very familiar with TED Talks. You know what they are about. So I want you to watch this video that is about the science of analyzing conversations second by second. In this case, the scholar Elizabeth Soko tells us about her experience with first-turn people who initiate conversations, but that have a sort of bite to them. People who are a little provocative with their language, even if they don't realize that they are using language that is provocative. And so she invites you to recognize whether you are that type of person, but also she tries to give people the tools to defend themselves against first-turners. Moreover, she shows you how conversational analysis is applied in trials, okay, in the world of law. So I want you now to pause this video and watch this TED Talk. It's about 20 minutes. You can click on the link from the slides that I gave you. Okay, and see you back in 20 minutes. So I hope that helps you understand and think about the words you say and how they say them a little more. And probably, these studies can help you analyze people who belong to your everyday lives and help you interact but also react to how people talk to you in a better way. Last thing for today, I want to show you the difference between conversational analysis and discourse analysis. So what the difference is that basically conversational analysis has a bottom-up approach. It starts from the conversation to build up its theories. Whereas when we are talking about discourse analysis, it applies concepts, theories, to real data. We'll look at this more specifically later on during our classes. The important thing that you have to remember is that conversational is mutually constructed and negotiated, okay? It does not exist in a void. It's all about the interaction between the speaker and the listener and how they react to what is said to them. For this reason, we cannot say that IRF classroom transactions, I'm talking about the theoretical ones, or the doctor-patient interview that we looked at previously cannot be considered conversation, real conversation, because they did not take into consideration several factors that happen in everyday life. So that's enough for today's class for March 9th. Now, as we usually do, I want to add in a song, and this time we're going to listen to Maroon 5, Memories. So that's enough for the class that we were supposed to have on March the 9th. And now we'll continue with the last part of this song, of this video, this class, with Memories. You suggested Memories by Maroon 5. So I'll read the lyrics just like I do in class. Here's to the ones that we got. Cheers to the wish you were here, but you're not. 'Cause the drinks bring back all the memories of everything we've been through. Toast to the ones here today. Toast to the ones that we lost on the way. 'Cause the drinks bring back memories, and the memories bring back you. There's a time that I remember when I did not know no pain. When I believed in forever and everything would stay the same. Now my heart feels like December when somebody says your name. 'Cause I can't reach out to call you, but I know I will one day. Everybody hurts sometime, everybody hurts someday, but everything gonna be all right. Go and raise a glass and say, hey. Here's to the ones that we got. Cheers to the wish you were here but you're not. 'Cause the drinks bring back all the memories of everything we've been through. Toast to the ones here today. Toast to the ones we lost on the way. 'Cause the drinks bring back all the memories, and the memories bring back you. There's a time that I remember when I never felt so lost, when I felt of all the hatred was too powerful to stop. Now my heart feels like an ember, and it's lighting up the dark. I'll carry these touches for you, that you know I'll never drop. And then it repeats. So please go to YouTube and listen to the song. If you have any questions about the class for March the 9th, please add a comment on YouTube, or you can send me an email to my institutional email address, and I'll help you out with it. I hope everything was clear, and our next class, this is English 2, so I'm going to record it, and I hope I'm going to be able to post it within tomorrow morning. Thank you for listening, and have a nice day.